When we talk about wealth creation, most people immediately think of money. They think of assets, investments, or maybe even a business idea that could make them rich. But wealth does not start in your bank account. Wealth starts in your mind. The mind is the soil, and every financial result you see in your life is simply the fruit of what you've planted there. If the soil is dry, toxic, or unprepared, the seeds will never grow, no matter how good the seed itself is. That's why mindset is the foundation of wealth. The truth is, money is not wealth. Money is just the receipt you get for creating wealth. Wealth itself is the value you generate, the problems you solve, the service you provide. And if you don't believe that you are capable of creating value, if you don't think your contribution matters, then even if you make money, you won't keep it. You'll sabotage yourself, you'll lose it, or you'll spend it as fast as it comes in. Why? Because your mind never accepted that you deserve to hold on to wealth in the first place. This is why so many people live paycheck to paycheck, no matter how much they earn. I've met people who make 6 figures a year, but end up broke because they still think poor. They still believe that money is scarce, that opportunity is limited, and that wealth is reserved for a chosen few. That mindset keeps them trapped, not the amount of money in their account. And until that belief system changes, their reality will not change. Think about it this way: 2 people can look at the exact same situation and see 2 completely different things. One person sees risk, the other sees opportunity. One sees scarcity, the other sees abundance. One is afraid to lose, the other is eager to learn. The situation didn't change, the mindset did. And it's the mindset that determines who takes action, who perseveres, and ultimately who builds wealth. Now, there's a subtle danger here. Most of us were trained to believe in limitations from a young age. Maybe you grew up hearing, money doesn't grow on trees, or can't afford that, or rich people are greedy. Those phrases get stored in your subconscious, and you carry them into adulthood without ever questioning them. And then you wonder why you hesitate to invest in yourself, why you undercharge for your services, or why you shrink back when an opportunity shows up at your door. It's not that you can't afford it, it's that your mind has been conditioned to think small. But here's the good news: your mind can be reprogrammed. Just like a computer, you can delete the old files and install new ones. You do this by exposing yourself to new ideas, new environments, new people, and new possibilities. If you spend your life surrounded by scarcity thinkers, people who are always complaining about what they don't have, that mindset will rub off on you. But if you put yourself in rooms with people who think big, who see possibility where others see problems, who create value instead of chasing pennies, that mindset will transform you. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop asking, can I afford it? And start asking, how can I afford it? That one change takes you from scarcity to creativity. Scarcity shuts doors, creativity opens them. Scarcity looks at the price and says, impossible. Creativity looks at the same price and says, let's find a way. That is the difference between someone who stays stuck and someone who builds wealth. Now, let's take it deeper. Mindset isn't just about thinking positive thoughts. It's not about repeating affirmations in the mirror while your life stays the same. Mindset is about alignment, aligning your beliefs with your actions. If you truly believe that opportunities are abundant, then you'll act boldly when opportunities appear. If you truly believe that your value is high, then you'll charge accordingly and negotiate confidently. If you truly believe that wealth is possible for you, then you'll invest in your growth instead of shrinking back in fear. And yes, fear will always show up. But when your mindset is strong, fear doesn't stop you. Fear becomes a signal that you're stepping into new territory, and new territory is where wealth is created. So don't wait until you stop feeling fear to act. Instead, train your mind to feel the fear and act anyway. That's how new levels of wealth open up. So mindset is not a motivational slogan. It's not a cliche. It is the foundation of everything else. If you get this wrong, every financial strategy will collapse under pressure. But if you get this right, even the simplest strategies will multiply because your mind is fertile soil. Your beliefs will attract the right opportunities. Your thoughts will shape the right actions. And your actions will eventually produce the results you've been seeking. So let me leave you with this: money will never outgrow your mindset. If you want to expand your wealth, you must first expand your mind, change your thinking, and you change your results. And once you change your results, wealth stops being a dream. It becomes your new normal. If mindset is the foundation of wealth, then value is the building material. Wealth is not about chasing money. It's about creating value. When people focus only on income, they limit themselves. Income is transactional. You give your time, your labor, or your effort in exchange for a paycheck. But when you focus on value creation, you move into a realm that has no ceiling, because value can multiply, scale, and expand far beyond the hours you personally put in. Think about this: the wealthiest people in the world didn't get there because they chased paychecks. They got there because they figured out how to solve problems at scale. Jeff Bezos solved the problem of convenience and shopping. Steve Jobs solved the problem of communication and creativity through technology. Oprah solved the problem of connection, of helping people feel seen and inspired. None of them were thinking, how can I earn an extra $20 an hour? They were thinking, how can I create something that makes millions of lives better? And the money flowed to them as a byproduct of the value they created. The tragedy is, most people never make this shift. They stay stuck in the income trap. They think, well, if I work harder, if I put in more hours, maybe I'll finally get ahead. But here's the harsh truth: there will always be a limit on how many hours you can work. You only have 24 hours in a day. If your wealth is tied to your hours, your wealth is capped. But if your wealth is tied to value, then it can expand infinitely. Let's take it deeper. Value is created when you take your skills, your knowledge, your creativity, and you solve someone else's problem. That's all money really is: an exchange of value. If you provide something that saves someone time, reduces their stress, increases their income, or makes their life better in any way, they will gladly pay you for it. And the more people you serve, the more value you create, the more wealth you attract. So instead of asking, how much can I earn? Start asking, how much value can I provide? Instead of saying, what job can I get? Start asking, what problem can I solve? That shift in thinking transforms your life because now you're not dependent on someone else's paycheck. You're not waiting for a company or a boss to recognize your worth. You're out in the marketplace creating worth. Now, I know what some people are thinking. They're saying, but I don't have any special talent. I'm not an inventor or a tech genius. That's the lie scarcity thinking tells you. The truth is you already have value inside you. You have experiences, insights, skills, and even struggles that somebody else is waiting for. Sometimes the very thing you take for granted is exactly what someone else is willing to pay for. The key is learning how to package that value, how to deliver it, and how to multiply it. And this is where faith and courage come in. Because creating value often requires stepping outside of your comfort zone. It requires believing that what you have is worth something and being willing to test it in the marketplace. It requires serving others, not just yourself. People who focus only on income are always thinking about themselves. What can I get? How much can I earn? What's in it for me? But people who create value think differently. They ask, how can I help? How can I serve? How can I solve? And the paradox is the more you give in value, the more wealth comes back to you. This is why I often say wealth is not about money chasing you. It's about money being magnetized to you. When you create value, money has no choice but to find you. But when you chase money without creating value, it will always run faster than you. Let me give you a practical picture. Imagine two people. One person is obsessed with getting a raise. They go to work every day, do the minimum required, and complain when their boss doesn't notice them. The other person walks into the same job and asks, how can I make this company more profitable? How can I make the customer experience better? How can I make my boss's life easier? That person begins solving problems, and before long, they either get promoted, get recruited, or they build a business of their own. The difference is not luck, the difference is value. When you understand this principle, you stop trying to climb ladders and start building tables. You stop waiting for someone to hand you a seat and start creating opportunities for yourself and others. That's when income becomes irrelevant, because wealth is flowing to you through value streams you've created. So, income is temporary, value is permanent. Income depends on effort. It depends on impact. Income ends when you stop working. Value continues even while you sleep. And that's why value creation, not income generation, is the real law of wealth creation. Here's what I want you to remember. Stop asking, what can I earn? Start asking, what can I create? Stop chasing money and start chasing problems to solve. Because when you solve the right problems, wealth doesn't just show up, it multiplies. We've talked about mindset and we've talked about value. Now we need to talk about the law that turns those two into something unstoppable. It's the law of compound growth. This is the principle that separates those who build temporary success from those who create lasting wealth. Because the truth is, wealth doesn't arrive all at once. It doesn't just drop into your lap overnight. Wealth is built layer by layer, decision by decision, habit by habit, until one day the results seem almost effortless. Most people underestimate compound growth because they only think in terms of addition. They think if I do this once, I'll get that result. If I do it twice, I'll double the result. But compound growth doesn't work like that. Compounding is exponential. It multiplies. It takes something small, something almost invisible at first, and over time it becomes unstoppable. Think about money in a savings account. If you put in a small amount every month, in the beginning, it doesn't look like much. You might even get discouraged because the progress feels slow. But as time passes, the interest begins to earn interest, and then the interest on the interest starts to snowball. What once looked insignificant begins to grow beyond your imagination. That's the mathematics of compound growth. But here's the secret: compounding doesn't just apply to money. It applies to everything. It applies to your skills, your relationships, your reputation, your discipline, your faith. Every time you invest in yourself, every time you make a decision that aligns with your values, every time you stick to the small disciplines, you're compounding. And though the results don't show up immediately, they're quietly building, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The tragedy is that most people never stay consistent long enough to experience compounding. They start a new habit, they get excited for a few weeks, but when the results aren't instant, they quit. They go to the gym for a month, don't see much change and stop. They save money for 3 months, then give up when they realize they're not rich yet. They read one book, but don't build a lifestyle of learning. They keep pulling up the seed to check if it's growing, and then they wonder why nothing takes root. Wealth is not built in spurts. Wealth is built in systems. It's the consistency, not the intensity, that compounds over time. One workout won't make you fit, but 1,000 will. One book won't make you wise, but a lifetime of reading will. One investment won't make you rich, but a lifetime of disciplined investing will. There's also a psychological depth to this principle. Compounding teaches us patience. It forces us to think long-term, to resist the temptation of instant gratification. And that's where most people fail. They'd rather have $1 today than $10 tomorrow. They'd rather spend than invest, consume than create, quit than persevere. And the cost of that impatience is enormous. Because what they give up is not just the small gain in front of them, but the multiplied growth that would have come if they had just stayed the course. Here's a simple example. Imagine if you improve just 1% every single day. That doesn't sound like much. Percent is almost invisible. But if you compound that growth over a year, you don't end up 365% better. You end up nearly 38 times better. That's the difference between linear thinking and exponential thinking. That's why small daily disciplines matter more than big occasional bursts. Now, the same law applies in reverse. Just as good habits compound positively, bad habits compound negatively. Skipping one payment, eating one unhealthy meal, telling one small lie, none of these seem significant in the moment. But over time, they stack up. Debt compounds, laziness compounds, dishonesty compounds. And before long, long, the weight of those small decisions becomes unbearable. That's why you must be intentional about what you allow to compound in your life. The real wealth builders understand this. They don't chase quick wins, they build lasting systems. They don't get distracted by temporary pleasures. They focus on long-term rewards. They plant seeds daily, knowing that the harvest may not come tomorrow, but it will come. And when it does, it will come in abundance because compounding always rewards the discipline. This is why some people seem to get lucky in life. From the outside, it looks like they just had a breakthrough. That wealth just showed up for them one day. But what you didn't see was the years of small, consistent actions they compounded in silence. You didn't see the discipline, the faith, the patience. And when the breakthrough came, it wasn't luck, it was the natural result of compounding. So the law of compound growth is simple. What you do consistently matters infinitely more than what you do occasionally. The seeds you plant today may look small, but if you water them with faith, with discipline, with time, they will grow into something extraordinary. And I'll leave you with this: never underestimate the power of small beginnings. Because in the hands of consistency, small always becomes great. Compound growth doesn't just change your bank account, it changes your destiny. We've looked at mindset, at value creation, and at the power of compound growth. But there's one more element that ties everything together: faith and action. These two forces are inseparable. Faith without action is wishful thinking, and action without faith is empty striving. When you put them together, you unlock the true engine of wealth creation. Faith is the ability to see what doesn't exist yet. It's the belief in possibilities before they become visible. Action is the discipline to move toward that belief even when circumstances don't line up. You need both. If you only have faith, you become a dreamer, someone who talks big but never produces results. If you only have action, you become a laborer, someone who works hard but never rises above the grind. Wealth requires the marriage of the two: vision and execution, belief and behavior, faith and works. The mistake many people make is they lean too heavily on one side. Some people sit back and say, I'm waiting for things to line up. I'm waiting for the right time. I'm waiting for a sign. They pray, they hope, they talk about what they want, but they never take the first step. And then years go by and they wonder why nothing changes. The truth is, faith alone doesn't move mountains. Faith must be followed by action. On the other hand, there are people who are always busy, always hustling, always grinding. They're putting in the work, but they don't believe it's going to pay off. Deep down, they're skeptical, they're afraid, they're doubtful. And because their faith is missing, their actions become frantic. They burn out, they settle, or they sabotage themselves because they don't believe they're worthy of the results they're chasing. That's why faith without action is powerless, and action without faith is directionless. When the two come together, though everything changes, faith gives action its fuel, and action gives faith its proof. Faith says, I can build something extraordinary. Action says, let me show you how. Faith provides the vision. Action provides the evidence. And once evidence shows up, faith grows stronger and the cycle continues. That's how momentum is created. But let's get practical. What does this look like in wealth creation? Imagine you have an idea for a business. Faith says this idea can succeed. It can serve people. It can create value. Without that belief, you won't even try. But faith alone doesn't put money in your account. You have to act, you have to research, plan, build, test, and sell. You have to take risks. And when those first results show up, even if they're small, your faith gets reinforced. Suddenly, what was once just an idea becomes tangible. That combination of belief and execution is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. There's also a deeper psychological truth here. Faith and action are not just external behaviors. They rewire the way you see yourself. Every time you act in faith, you tell your mind, I am capable. I am a creator. I am someone who can bring ideas into reality. And the more you repeat that cycle, the more your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as a passive observer of life and start seeing yourself as an active architect of your destiny. Now, don't confuse faith with certainty. Faith doesn't mean you know every step before you take it. Faith means you're willing to step even when the path isn't fully clear. Too many people wait until they feel ready, until they've eliminated all risk, until they know every outcome. But if you wait for certainty, you'll be waiting forever. The wealth builders of the world step out before everything makes sense, and they let clarity come through action. And don't confuse action with business. Action is not about doing more, working harder, or filling your calendar. True action is aligned with vision. It's intentional, strategic, and purposeful. Some people confuse activity with progress, but they're not the same. Progress comes from the right actions, not just any actions. Faith helps you filter what matters, and action helps you execute what matters. Together, they keep you focused and moving forward. This principle even ties back to compound growth, because when you take action and faith every day, you start compounding belief and behavior. Your faith grows because you see results, and your results grow because your faith keeps you consistent. That cycle creates unstoppable momentum. So if you're sitting here today waiting for the perfect plan, stop waiting. If you're sitting here grinding without vision, stop grinding. Wealth creation requires both: the belief that it's possible and the action that makes it real. And let me leave you with this: faith is the seed, action is the water. One without the other produces nothing. But when you plant in faith and water with action, the harvest is inevitable.